Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here today to share another verse with you. This one comes from Psalm 119. Now, Psalm 119 is the longest psalm in the Psalms. It goes on and on and on and on. In fact, it has a total of 176 verses. So rather than read all of them to you today, that would take a while. I have a couple thoughts just from verses 143 and 144. And here's what it says. As pressure and stress bear down on me, I find joy in your commands. Your laws are always right. Help me to understand them so I may live. Well, the psalmist here is really giving us some good advice, about living. As pressure and stress bear down on me. We all know about that. I mean, some people have so much stress on them. It's amazing that they even survive. Stress literally will kill you. Yeah. I went through a period of time in my life, about probably 4 years of great stress. And I'm not surprised that later on in life, after that, I had some real significant health problems. It really was wearing me down, even though at the time I wasn't aware of it. And some people, they just like being stressed out. I guess they like the adrenaline that comes from it. I guess they like the feelings of struggle, but stress is depressing. Stress will just drag you down and down and down and get you to say things that you really didn't want to say and think things you didn't want to think and even do things you wouldn't normally do. And so this psalmist says, as pressure and stress bear down on me, what are you going to do at that point? Well, in many cases, the source of the stress you can't change. So eliminating the stress, well, that's just not really an option. Now, maybe you can mitigate it. I remember being told exercise, go for walks, do things to keep your mind busy. And all of those were good advice, and they were all true. But there's only so much of that I could manage to get through. Now, you could learn to do yoga and meditation and maybe even Zen, uh, chanting. And maybe that works. I don't know. I never tried that, but I grant you, it might work. But I do know that what the scriptures say do work. And here's what it says. As pressure and stress bear down on me, I find joy in your commands. How do you find joy in the midst of stress? Well, this passage is saying, think about the commands of God. What does God want for you, even at that stressful moment? He says, help me to understand them so that I might live. So, what are the commands of God? Well, there are a lot of them, really. Not so much laws like the Old Testament talked about, or modern day Judaism, or modern day legalism wants to do. Jesus only had two. He called them the two great commandments: love God with all your heart and soul and mind, and love yourself as your neighbors as you love yourself. So, what do we do in times of stress? Well, think about God. He didn't put the stress on you just to see how long it'll take for you to blow your cork. He's in the midst of that stress, wanting to ameliorate it. He wants to he wants to show you a better way to deal with it. So we go back to those 2 commandments and other things that he said. And the first thing that comes is we put him first. Before you get up in the morning and let the stress and the pressure build up on you, before you do all of that, go to God and talk to him. Well, how do you talk to him? Well, same way I'm talking to you. You don't need special words or a special place or a special posture. You just talk to him. Hey, God, I need to talk to you about this. And talk to him. And even if you feel foolish, don't, because he's there. So we spend some time with him, we talk to him, and we listen. God's always wanted to talk back. We just don't always hear it. God wants to communicate to you and to me and everybody else how much he cares for you, how much he loves you. And in the midst of times of stress, that's so important to know that you're not alone in this. That one day it will pass. Maybe it's a long one day. Maybe it's a short one day. I don't have any magic about that. But when we focus on him and what he wants us to do, our lives will change. So, first thing in the morning, talk to him. Second thing, during the day, do something for somebody else. Jesus is always doing something for somebody else. He's always got somebody's needs forefront in his mind. So why don't you do the same thing? Go volunteer at the local food bank for a while. Go to your neighbor and say, hey, is there anything I can do to help you out today? Or if you see somebody's grass needs cutting, just go cut it. Just you don't even have to say anything. Go to the store when you see somebody struggling at the cash register. Pay for their thing if you can do that. If you can't, maybe somebody will pay for yours. But focus on God and do what he wants us to do, because it says here that your laws are always right and they give me understanding so that I may live. The focus of God's rules, if you will, is not to make your life miserable, but it's to help you live and live in its fullness, even in the midst of stress. So let me just ask you today, when you get stressed, what do you do? Well, if you yell at the dog, that's probably not a good plan. If you yell at your kids or your spouse, that's not a good plan either. So take some time, talk to God, and do something that he's already laid on your heart to do. I guarantee you, it won't change the situation necessarily, but it will decrease the stress. Well, thanks for listening. If you have a need or concern, let us know. We'll do whatever we can. Don't hesitate. I'll be back tomorrow with another thought. This one's going to be from, let me see where my list is. Another one from Psalm 119. But I hope you have a really great day. I hope the joy of God touches your heart in a special, special way. God bless you. I'll be back.